Imagine trying to count the exact number of gumballs in one of those giant glass jars at a carnival.
Oh, yeah, the ones where you win a prize if you guess right.
Exactly. But now imagine that jar is like 30 feet in the air
Huh.
and it's covered in sharp overlapping leaves. Plus, it's swaying in the wind.
Sounds impossible.
Right. And if you happen to guess the number wrong, you disrupt a multi-billion-dollar global supply chain. Because, well, welcome to the daily reality of the global palm oil industry.
It really is just a staggering logistical challenge. I mean, we always picture massive agricultural supply chains as being, fully automated and digitized these days.
Yeah, robots everywhere, drones, that sort of thing.
Exactly. But at the very heart of palm oil production, especially in major regions like Malaysia and Indonesia, you have this surprisingly manual bottleneck.
Like an actual person counting.
Yes, someone literally has to stand out there in the heat, squint up into the canopy, and try to make an educated guess about how many individual fruits are on a bunch just to predict the yield.
Which just feels completely out of place in the 21st century. But that is the core of our deep dive today.
It's a really exciting topic.
It is. We are looking at a fascinating new study out of East Kalimantan, Indonesia. A team of researchers there tested whether cutting-edge deep learning, like actual artificial intelligence, can finally solve this problem.
They're automating the counting of oil palm fresh fruit bunches, or FFBs, right in the field. And they're just using regular smartphone cameras.
I love that part. It's this brilliant collision of raw, messy, real-world agriculture and highly sophisticated computer vision.
Yeah, taking algorithms usually reserved for high-tech, pristine labs and forcing them to work in the mud. The glare, the shadows of a real plantation.
I am so excited to pull apart the mechanics of how this actually works. But before we get into the whole AI showdown, we have a very special and very important announcement for you today.
Really important, yeah.
If you are a smallholder farmer tuning in, especially from Malaysia or Indonesia, please listen up. Crop Drive is completely free for all smallholder farmers.
Completely free.
I want to say that again so there's no confusion at all. You can register right now and use the Crop Drive tool completely free of charge.
There are absolutely no hidden fees and no conditions attached.
None. It's a powerful resource designed specifically to support your daily operations. It gives you access to better insights without, adding any financial burden whatsoever.
Which is so critical for independent growers right now.
So please take a moment to go register right now. And hey, while you are doing that, we also want to ask you to sign up and subscribe to our channel today.
Hit that subscribe button.
You really do not want to miss any of the cutting-edge information and oil palm best practices we share here. So subscribe now, and let's keep learning together.
Because getting the right tools and the right knowledge directly into the hands of the people actually working the land, that's what actually moves this industry forward.
It changes the entire landscape. So diving back into the study out of East Kalimantan.
Right, the AI counting.
Yeah. We know that counting these palm fruits manually is a massive bottleneck. But I think we need to understand the biology before we understand the technology.
That's a good point.
Like, people count apples on trees or strawberries in a field visually without too much trouble, right?
Yeah.
Why is the oil palm such a nightmare for a human to quantify?
Well, the difficulty really comes down to the unique physical structure of the fresh fruit bunch.
How so?
Unlike an apple, which generally hangs somewhat distinctly on its own branch, oil palm fruits grow in these incredibly dense, compact clusters. They're tightly packed together on a single stalk.
They almost look like a giant spiky pine cone made of hundreds of individual little plums just pressed together.
That is a very vivid and accurate way to picture it, actually. And they are not at a convenient eye level.
Right, the gumball jar 30 feet up.
Exactly. These bunches are nestled high up in the altitude of the tree canopy. They're obscured by thick, overlapping fronds, and they are wrapped in these natural fibrous structures.
So you're dealing with layers of visual obstruction before you even get to the fruit itself.
You are. And then you have to factor in the environment. The lighting in a natural plantation is completely unpredictable.
Because of the sun and the canopy?
Yeah, you have harsh, blinding glare in one spot and then deep, pitch black shadows in another. And the lighting changes minute by minute as the sun moves or the wind blows the canopy around.
Which means human visual bias comes into play big time. I was reading a bit about how our brains process clustered objects.
Oh, the underestimation effect.
Yeah. When things overlap heavily, human eyes naturally underestimate the total count. We simply can't mentally account for what is hidden behind that front layer of fruit. We just guess low.
It's a really well-documented phenomenon. We see the surface area, and our brains fail to extrapolate the depth accurately.
And when you multiply that human error across tens of thousands of trees, your entire yield forecast becomes wildly inaccurate.
Exactly. You send too many trucks or too few, you
Yeah.
misallocate labor, the logistical waste just cascades all the way down the chain.
I'd imagine feeding an AI pristine, perfect photos of palm fruit wouldn't work to solve this then, because the real world is messy.
It wouldn't work at all.
So if human eyes struggle so much with all this occlusion and density, do the researchers have to build a custom dataset in the mud and the glare to teach the AI how to see?
They did, and that is actually the most groundbreaking part of this study. There was actually no publicly available benchmark data set dedicated specifically to oil palm fruit counting before this.
Wait, none at all.
None. So they had to build the cheat sheet entirely from scratch. They went out into real field conditions in East Kalimantan during the early 2025 harvest season.
Okay.
And instead of using a massive, expensive laboratory camera, they used a regular smartphone. A Xiaomi 12 Pro, to be exact.
So that feels like a very deliberate choice.
It was.
They use the exact kind of device a plantation manager or a farmer actually has in their pocket right now.
Precisely. It guarantees the data actually reflects reality. They captured 539 high-resolution images of these bunches from multiple angles, top down, side, oblique.
Did they account for the different colors? Because they
No.
change color as they ripen, right?
Yes, they made sure to capture diverse maturity stages.
Yeah.
They photographed everything from reddish-orange unripe fruits to deep black ripe ones.
And the lighting?
They made sure to include extreme lighting scenarios and heavy fiber occlusion, too.
So they have these 539 messy, realistic photos. But an AI doesn't just naturally know what it's looking at.
Right, it just sees pixels.
Someone had to sit down and teach it what a single palm fruit looks like amid all that chaos.
Yes, and the labor involved in that is just staggering. The researchers took those images, chopped them up into overlapping patches, and manually annotated every single visible fruit.
Oh my gosh.
We are talking about drawing bounding boxes and precise masks around individual fruits to create 15,000 training patches.
They manually circled tens of thousands of fruits. That is a level of tedious dedication I can barely comprehend.
It's a lot of long hours in front of a monitor, for sure.
But even with 15,000 patches, if the lighting changes tomorrow, couldn't the AI just get confused? Did they do anything to prevent the algorithm from just memorizing those specific 539 photos?
They did, using a technique called data augmentation.
How does that work?
They took those annotated images and artificially altered them. They flipped the images horizontally and vertically. They adjusted the brightness, pushing it to extreme light and extreme dark.
Just to mess with it.
Basically, they intentionally blurred the images to simulate a dirty camera lens or a moving branch. They rotated them at odd angles.
It sounds like training a boxer in a dark, wet, slippery ring. You purposely make the training conditions chaotic so that when they get into a normal fight, they are ready for absolutely anything.
That's a great analogy. They artificially created even more visual chaos so the AI wouldn't just memorize the specific pattern of pixels in the photos.
It has to learn the actual concept.
Exactly. It learns the underlying concept of what an oil palm fruit looks like under any conceivable condition.
So now the AI has the perfect battle-tested cheat sheet. But a cheat sheet is entirely useless if the student taking the test isn't smart enough to process it.
Right. The algorithm itself matters.
Which brings us to the actual AI brains they tested. Because they didn't just try one algorithm, they set up a three-way showdown.
They brought in 3 state-of-the-art deep learning architectures to see which one could handle the extreme density of the canopy.
Who are the contenders?
The contenders were YOLO 5s, YOLO 3, and Mask RCNN.
Okay, let's break down these mechanisms because we really need to understand how they actually see the world. Let's start with YOLO. What is the fundamental mechanism driving it?
So YOLO stands for You Only Look Once. These are known as single-stage object detectors.
Meaning they don't do a double take?
Exactly. The defining characteristic of a YOLO model is speed and efficiency. Instead of scanning an image piece by piece, it looks at the entire image at once, hence the name, and predicts where the objects are by drawing square or rectangular bounding boxes around them.
And the letters at the end.
The S in YOLO 5s stands for small, and the N in YOLO 8 stands for nano.
Which indicates they are highly compressed, lightweight models. They don't require a massive, energy-hungry server farm to run.
Precisely. They're built to operate quickly on smaller, less powerful devices.
Okay, so what about the third one?
Now, the third contender, Mask RCNN, is a very different beast. It is a 2-stage model.
So it does do a double take.
Yes. First, it scans the image and proposes specific regions where it thinks an object might be located. Then, in the second stage, it refines that
And
guess.
does it draw boxes too?
That's the critical difference. Instead of just drawing a generic square box around the general area of the fruit, mask-RCNN creates a pixel-level mask. It draws a precise, irregular outline that hugs the exact shape of the fruit itself.
Let me see if I have the mechanism right here. YOLO is essentially like throwing a square net over the general area where you think the fruit is,
Yes.
whereas mask RCNN is trying to meticulously shrink wrap every individual piece of fruit perfectly.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize the difference. One is drawing a rough perimeter, and the other is contouring to the exact physical shape.
But this is where I have to push back on the logic of the experiment.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we are dealing with a dense cluster of fruits where everything is overlapping, hiding behind each other, and casting weird shadows, throwing square nets YOLO's bounding boxes seems like a terrible idea.
Why do you say that?
Those boxes are going to overlap constantly and create a massive jumble. If mask RCNN takes the time to shrink wrap a precise pixel-by-pixel outline of every single fruit, shouldn't that automatically make it the undisputed champion for counting densely packed objects?
It seems like it should.
I mean, it just seems logically superior for this specific problem.
It makes complete sense that you would assume that. And the researchers thought the exact same thing initially.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, in many other agricultural contexts, like counting strawberries or tomatoes,
Okay.
that pixel-level segmentation of mask RCNN is the gold standard.
So what happened here?
Well, what is truly fascinating about this study is that the results completely flip that logical assumption upside down.
So if the shrink wrap method seems logically better, what actually happened when they ran the test? Who took the crown?
The winner and the most robust model by a significant margin for this incredibly complex task was actually YOLO 5's.
Wait, really? The older single-stage bounding box drawing model beat the hyper-precise pixel-perfect mask RCNN.
It did. It totally beat it. Let's look at the actual detection metrics because they tell a really interesting story.
Okay, hit me with the numbers.
YOLO 5's achieved a precision of 0.963, a recall of 0.946, and an F1 score of 0.954.
Okay, before we get bogged down in the decimals, tell me what those numbers actually mean for a plantation manager standing under a tree.
Fair enough. Precision means that when the AI drew a box and said, "This is a fruit," it was correct 96.3% of the time.
So it had very few false alarms.
Exactly. Recall means it successfully found 94.6% of all the actual fruits that were physically there. It barely missed anything.
And the F1 score?
The F1 score is just a combined metric that shows the model is incredibly well balanced. It doesn't overguess and it doesn't underguess.
That kind of balance is crucial. But detecting a fruit and accurately counting the total mass are slightly different challenges, right?
They are.
How did it do on the final tally? Did it guess the number of gumballs in the jar correctly?
To measure the counting accuracy, they used a metric called mean absolute error, or MAE.
What does that measure, in simple terms?
In simple terms, this measures how many fruits the AI was off by, on average, across all the images. YOLO 5 had the lowest global error. It missed the true count by an average of only 4.96 fruits per image.
Less than 5 fruits off. On a massive, chaotic, densely packed bunch that might contain hundreds of fruits.
Yes, less than 5.
That is astounding accuracy. So we really have to unpack why my assumption was so wrong. Why did the hyper-precise mask RCNN fail?
It comes back to your shrink wrap analogy, actually. Mask RCNN failed precisely because it was trying too hard to be perfect.
Ah, I see.
In a highly dense cluster, the boundaries between individual fruits blur together, especially in deep shadows, or when a fibrous strand cuts across the surface.
So it gets confused.
Yes. Because mask RCNN's two-stage process demands that it find the exact continuous edge of an object, it gets easily confused when that edge just disappears into the dark.
Oh, I see where this is going. It overthinks it.
Totally.
It spends so much computational energy trying to find a perfect edge that doesn't physically exist visually that it ends up just giving up and missing the fruit entirely.
Exactly. His recall dropped significantly because it was just missing foods completely when the boundaries weren't perfectly clear.
What was its error rate?
Its mean absolute error was 6.08, and in high-density scenarios, that error jumped over 8. It just couldn't handle the visual ambiguity.
That makes perfect sense. Sometimes in artificial intelligence, a simpler, faster, and slightly rougher approach actually beats hyper-precise processing when the data itself is messy.
Less is more in this case.
But what about Yolovatan? That is the newer, theoretically more advanced version of YOLO. If the older version won, why did the newer nano model struggle?
Well, Yolovate incorporates something called improved feature fusion.
Feature fusion.
Yeah. In simple terms, feature fusion is how the algorithm combines different layers of detail from the image, like the color gradient, the surface texture, and the geometric shape, to make a very highly sensitive guess about what it is looking at.
Okay.
It's designed to be incredibly good at finding tiny objects in cluttered scenes.
So it's basically like a hyper-vigilant guard dog. It has incredible senses, but it might hear a twig snap and immediately assume it's a burglar.
That's a phenomenal way to explain it.
Or in this case, it sees a round shadow and assumes it's a palm fruit.
Exactly. It gets triggered by the noise.
Yeah.
Yolovate was way too aggressive at trying to find everything, which meant its precision dropped to 0.911.
Lots of false positives then.
Far too many. It was drawing boxes around shadows, leaves, and bits of fiber that merely looked like the curve of a fruit. Its mean absolute error climbed to 6.87.
Which means Yola 5's just hit the exact sweet spot.
It did.
It didn't overthink the pixel boundaries to the point of paralysis like mask RCNN, and it wasn't so hypersensitive that it hallucinated fruits out of shadows like Yola 8.
Right, it was the ultimate pragmatist of the group. It just consistently found the center mass, threw its net over it, and moved on.
So we have a clear champion, and we understand the mechanism of why it won. But let's take this out of the academic realm and bring it from the code to the canopy.
The real-world application.
Yeah, why does this specific victory for Yola 5s matter so much for the smallholder farmer or the plantation manager we asked to subscribe earlier? What does a mean absolute error of 4.96 actually unlock for the industry?
It is the foundation for true precision agriculture in regions where infrastructure is limited.
How so?
The most important detail here is that ULOV 5s is a lightweight model. That brings us to a concept called edge computing.
Meaning the computation happens on the edge of the network, right where the data is collected, rather than being sent away to some centralized hub?
Yes. If you are a farmer out in a remote plantation in Indonesia, you do not have a blazing fast fiber optic internet connection to beam massive high-resolution images to a supercomputer in another country to be analyzed.
No, you'd be lucky to have basic cell service sometimes.
Right. You need the answer right there, right then. Because YOLAV 5s is so optimized, the AI can run directly offline on the smartphone already in your pocket.
Wow.
Or, even more practically, it can be loaded onto a cheap off-the-shelf drone.
So the practical application is that a manager could literally fly a basic drone over a section of the plantation.
Yeah.
The camera is running this YOLO model in real time, scanning the bunches as it flies, drawing those little boxes instantly, and generating a highly accurate count of the yield before the drone even lands.
Exactly. And think about the domino effect of having that precise data.
It's huge.
Historically, yield forecasting in palm oil has been based on historical averages or very rough visual estimates by supervisors just walking the lines, guessing. But with this edge technology, you transition immediately to reliable empirical yield forecasting,
You actually know exactly what you have on the trees before you even lift a harvesting pole.
which allows you to schedule your harvests with incredible laser-like precision. If you know you have exactly 10,000 mature fruits in Sector A and only 2,000 in Sector B, you know exactly how many trucks to dispatch to each location.
Right.
You know exactly how many workers you need to assign for the day. You know exactly how much processing capacity the mill needs to prep for.
It eliminates the massive buffer of guesswork that costs the industry millions.
Absolutely.
In practical terms, it means a farmer can trust that AI number to schedule their transport for the next morning without worrying they're paying for a half-empty truck to drive back to the mill.
It optimizes resource allocation at every single level. And crucially, it minimizes waste.
How does it cut down waste?
Well, missed fruit or delayed harvesting leads to overripe fruit dropping to the ground. That degrades the quality of the crude palm oil and increases free fatty acids.
Oh, I see.
Being able to quickly, cheaply, and accurately assess the crop visually without a massive manual labor force is just a total game changer for efficiency.
It really bridges the gap between the chaotic reality of farming and the pristine logic of data science.
It does.
We started this deep dive with the image of a massive global industry reliant on a single person squinting up at a tall tree, trying to guess what was hidden in the leaves.
And getting it wrong a lot of the time.
Yeah. What this study from East Kalimantan really proves is that we finally have the right kind of artificial eyes to solve the problem.
By taking the time to build a rigorous, real-world data set, and by proving that an accessible, pragmatic model like YOLOV 5s can handle the extreme visual complexity of a fresh fruit bunch, these researchers have successfully peeled computer vision out of the academic laboratory.
Got it dirty.
They did. They proved it can work in the mud and the glare of operational farming in Southeast Asia.
It's no longer just a theoretical paper. It is practical, it is highly scalable, and it runs on the phone already sitting in your pocket right now.
It's amazing.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have just spent all this time exploring how a standard smartphone camera and a cleverly trained lightweight algorithm can now perfectly see and count overlapping hidden objects 30 feet up in a dense forest canopy.
Right.
So if this technology can uncover that much hidden value from a simple photograph, wait, scratch that. From a simple photo, what other invisible data points in your plantation or your business are just waiting for the right algorithm to finally see them?
That is a completely fascinating frontier to think about.
It really is. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.